Event 25, Women's Collegiate Novice 8, Heat B, Lane 1, Kansas State University. 2, University of California, Davis. 3, St. Mary's College. 4, Washington State University. 5, Oregon State University. Lane 6, University of Washington. Lane 7, University of Texas.
Kansas State, UCD.
The starter is
St. Mary's,
announcing the crews.
Washington State,
after we hear the University of Texas.
Oregon State.
Attention,
Washington,
go. We'll have a start.
Texas. Attention.
Flags up.
Go.
And we have a start. Event number 25. Good, clean, fair start. All 7 crews away. I'll tell you, the Husky crew out here in lane 6 wants to go for it. And in fact, the University of Washington in lane 6 is your early race leader. Really showing some strength, real strong finishes. Moving to a 4-seat advantage over the crews inside, the UC Davis crew. It's Washington definitely leading this race. They have 5 seats now. University of Texas still has contact on the Huskies. Bow man sitting opposite the coxswain of the Husky crew. It's the University of Washington, lane 6. Early race leader. University of Texas in the 2nd spot. Then all the way inside to Kansas State for 3rd. 4th position is Washington State, then Oregon State, and then the remainders. Washington really developing a nice rhythm here. Has a 6-seat advantage, running in lane 6 over the crew in lane 7, Texas. Now the boats on the inside are starting to make up a little bit of distance, but it's Washington, your leader at 500 meters, with Kansas State in the 2nd position, University of Texas in the 3rd spot. Then it's Washington State, Oregon State, and the others. Once again, this is event number 25, the Women's Collegiate Novice 8. Heat B.
The novice events, this collegiate novice events, this regatta have not been seeded, so that's why we're seeing in these events some of the better credentialed crews from the more history programs actually performing in the outside lanes. And we're seeing here University of Washington in lane 6 and the University of Texas in lane 7. That's the University of Texas A boat. Their B boat will be taking part in the next heat. Leading this race to start off with, although they're now getting challenged by Kansas State and the University of California, Davis. Kansas State have wins over Kansas, Tulsa, 2 over Texas and Central Florida, although they've lost to Oklahoma and have 1 loss to Texas as well. The University of California, Davis has wins over Sonoma State and the Cal Lightweights, but have lost to Sacramento State and San Diego State. St. Mary's have no preseason form in the novice races. Washington State similarly no preseason form. Oregon State have beaten Gonzaga but lost to the University of Victoria. University of Washington, this is their first regatta of the year, and Texas have beaten Kansas State, Central Florida twice, and Oklahoma, but they've lost twice to Kansas State. So, in 7 University of Texas and in 1 Kansas State, they've raced each other quite a bit already this year.
Again, in this race, the first 2 to cross the finish line will go on to the grand final. The second 2 will go to the petty final. They're taking 2 boats from each of the heats because there are 3 heats in this event.
As we look down the course now, what we have is 2 races going on at different sides of the race course. That's obviously very difficult for us to judge from our view here at the finish line. but it's also very difficult for the crews in the race to keep abreast of where their competitors are in it. And the crews are very much relying on the coxswains to let them know where they are, and relying on the coxswains to make the right tactical moves to make sure they don't lose track of who's on the other side of the race course. So at the moment it's the University of Washington, who obviously came here with a mission to establish their authority on this race, but they're being tracked by the University of Texas. And on this side of the race course it's Kansas State. The challenge to those three crews appears to be coming from Oregon State in 5 and Washington State in 4, with St. Mary's trailing.
As you look out on the course, the wind is slowly starting to pick up, and you can start seeing a little bit of rough water coming where they come through the channel. It shouldn't be a big problem for them this early in the day, but it is something to look out for later.
The challenge from the University of Texas has faded. Washington have moved away from them, and the challenge to them is now coming from Oregon State and from Washington State on their inside, with Kansas State still very much up there in lane 1, with UC Davis and St. Mary's trailing and out of the picture for qualification onto the next stage of this race at this point. Washington looking very impressive. Very difficult to say who's actually in the lead at this point, and as between Kansas State in lane 1, Oregon State in lane 5 and Washington State in lane 4, it's too close to pick. Washington are maintaining their lead, but look out for lane 4, Washington State. They're putting on a big push.
Looks like Washington State is going to push past Oregon State, unless Oregon State can pull it out with a big response. University of Washington still sitting comfortably. Texas trying to stay in the race, but coming up here is Kansas State. And it looks like Kansas State knows they're getting closer to the finish line. Picking it up.
The Kansas State are going for it now. So are the Washington State in the middle. They have had a really terrific final 500 meters. I'm not sure it's going to be enough to get them over the top of Washington. The Huskies have been sitting on the front of this race right from the get-go. But it looks as though it's going to be Washington and their cross-state rivals, Washington State, moving on to the next.
And the race for 4th place is going to be very close indeed. The last but to qualify for the petty final. Looks like Kansas State will be going to the petty final unofficially.
So just missing out the far side there at Texas in 5th, and the trailing crews from University of California, Davis and St. Mary's. So unofficially on to the grand final, Washington and Washington State. On to the petite final, Oregon State and Kansas State.